Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Transformation Podcast. Today, the setup changes a bit, as you can see, as you can imagine already. And it's because this is a special episode in which we will finally give a bit more of voice to all the hosts of this fantastic podcast. And I would like to welcome here in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria for the first time, Mr. Cyril Coste.
Way to go. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for the invitation.
And I have the feeling that this will happen so many other times, right? So it's going to become an habit. Of course, today with us, there is, as usual, also Frank Italia. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
And I am Michele Cimino, and as usual, we will talk about digital transformation and technology at 360 degrees. Today's is going to be a little more of a conversation between us and sharing our opinions about the latest technology and what is going on into the tech space. Okay. So, this is actually quite funny. What is the digital transformation for you guys?
So the way I define it, for me, digital transformation is a redefinition of value by the customer.
Mm-hmm.
What has happened is before it was the business who decided what to produce, what to change, especially software companies, and they dictated how companies should work and interact with their customer. Digital transformation has completely changed and exploded that because the touch points and the interactions are managed now via companies, via what you are doing here at Lasting Dynamics. And now the ownership of this interaction is done between the company and its customer, not anymore by huge software companies. And this has allowed small companies to compete with large ones because you don't need any more huge investment in IT software, IT infrastructures, IT teams to reach your customers and work with them. With creativity, you can compete with the biggest. And that's why, in the 20 years, we've seen huge companies, like Uber, this type of companies, Airbnb, who basically before that probably would have been able to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something extremely funny that happened exactly today. I was talking with some specialists of public tenders and projects in the public administration. They told me that in some countries, the digital transformation call started just in 2022. And most of the transformation that was driven during this year and a half was they defined it tiny things, like not really innovative anything, so some small projects for the public administration. And now there is the second part of the call in these countries. And they're saying that they don't see this changing that much. And this is somehow, is connected with the overall feeling that we have been discussing in the past episodes about also McKinsey and other big enterprises talking about how most of the time, unfortunately, these projects fail because of tax execution, right? Frank, what is the digital transformation for you?
So I would certainly agree with the Cyril definition, and I would add that based on what you said, that all the companies that started their shift in 2022 were a little bit late, because another perspective, another point of view, in my opinion, and the way I would define it, is a shift of power. Before, the power was in the companies; they were leading, and the customers were following. And now it's actually completely the opposite. It's a shift of power. Now it's the clients leading, and the companies are adapting to. Even the content is not created by the companies anymore. Actually, the customers that are creating, and the companies are trying to enter that space. So it's a shift of power, and the companies need to adapt and enter that space as well. And this is what I would add.
Interesting. Yeah, well, for me instead, I usually put the accent a lot on the agile transformation that is part of the digital transformation. Now I have some interns from the University of Napoli, and I'm following them personally. And they are, preparing some documentation for their graduation. And what we are working on now is especially, the digital and agile transformation. The funny thing is that these guys, the more they research and understand about the topic, the more come back to me saying, oh wow, I also found this new source that is validating what we discussed the previous time, and most of the time is about mindset shift, so mindset shift going from the not necessarily the all the waterfall, but all those strict process and the policies and rules inside the big and large companies to something that is a little more communication based, a little more interaction based between the people that in the end, are composing the company. And we have been looking into the direction of safe Scrum, that is the scaled Scrum framework, and it is interesting to observe that there are some companies, larger companies, that have been doing this already way much before earlier, let's say, than when actually digital transformation became a terminology, became something. And we are talking about Accenture, Sunrise, and several others. And the challenge of all these companies is okay, when it comes to a small team of 10, 15 people, then Scrum, test-driven development, extreme programming, Crystal, whatever it is, works like a charm. But when you have so many employees and so many teams, how do you make sure that they are interacting? And then operations across department, that is the total mess, marketing dealing with the design or software engineers, etc., etc.
There's no one recipe for the whole organization. Some will work in Scrum, some will use Kanban, some will never evolve to anything else than waterfall because it's not at all their mindset. Typically a finance department who work on a calendar basis, so for them Scrum doesn't really make sense. And even when you work in marketing teams, the definition of a product is very different from some, let's say, the production part of the business or the IT digital team. Organizing a conference is very different from running a marketing campaign on social media. So timelines are different, the milestones are different. So it's really a test and trial, and good luck to your interns because they are going to have a shock when they're going to enter the real world and see how
that's for sure
how people really work. That's going to be a big shock for them.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's total mess when you jump off the university and then you search for a job. Usually there is a lot of training that unfortunately nowadays still doesn't happen in the university. Probably because the university is not meant for that kind of training, but on the other end, it creates that kind of side effect that you have the feeling university is somehow losing ground, and the technology is evolving so fast. The IT world evolves so fast, and remaining, on that area that probably could make sense in 2010, things like that. I don't know. I struggle.
They definitely are losing ground. They're losing power. Their power was the knowledge, and they was kept inside the actual university. But now you can actually learn exactly what you can learn in terms of the actual theory by yourself on YouTube, on the internet. What you cannot do, it's like the practice. So this is where they probably should work.
Yeah, and the educational process somehow now is also moving a lot to the academies. I have a lot of guys on a let's say monthly basis that apply to our academies, and the motivation why they want to do the academies because they frenetically want to jump into the into this world, and they want to have a job. They wanna start practicing. They wanna be on the ground. Of course, I have to say that our academies are highly theoretical. So, and also all the interviews that we conducted, etc., we come from that school where if you have the right mindset and the methodology, then it doesn't matter if you're gonna code in Python or Node.js or Golang or whatever. It's about understanding the paradigm, the design pattern, and then you can do whatever. Yep, that's it. So if you understood what is the formula to learn something, then you can apply it always.
Exactly. You need the foundations. You need to have the basics right. Because if you got this, like, but if you learned that 20 years ago, it's still applicable. You know, the languages are not the same. They have changed, front end especially. But basically, as long as you have the design patterns, as you mentioned, that you can, work
Yeah,
with.
I would say backend is still there since many years. If you think about the software development on the backend, it's still based on a model view controller, and most of what happens has been abstracting from databases. Doesn't matter if you are dealing with the NoSQL or relational database management systems. And most of the work on that side has been shifting into networking, cloud, and the DevOps. When instead the front end, yeah, I can agree that it was vanilla JavaScript, at least web world, you know, and CSS and whatever. Then it moved into frameworks that were making it easier, and then the paradigm shift going into the composition that has been adopted by React, Vue.js, and Angular. So it's always the same. And now it's 7 years, it's the same. Some libraries have been fighting for state management and other stuffs, but it's pretty much always the same. Yeah. Okay, so sorry for diverging a bit. I have the feeling today is going to be really funny somehow.
I refrain myself from adding something.
I did the same, yes.
Okay, so the first topic that we have discussed a bit in these days, and probably we want to take again to the conversation, is that in the previous episode we were talking about AI, and everyone has been talking for weeks about the Google CEO going on stage and mentioning 140 times the word AI. It was super funny. Then in the meantime, after the WWDC event from Apple, the big Apple event happened, and everyone was waiting for something, right? Something big that potentially can change it. But what happened is that Tim Cook never mentioned either AI, neither AI nor VR, AR, XR, etc. What do you think about this? It's quite of a.
Yeah, well, I would focus on the AR and VR bit. Yeah, they are not mentioning it, but their product is very much based on augmented reality and a little bit of virtual reality. Even the frameworks that they use, AR Kit, Reality Kit, they have that in their names. Even the new chip, the R1 that they are introducing, that's meant to process your hand movements. The headset has sensors, and it's meant to basically essentially process the movements and that data and passing on to the other chip. So yeah, they didn't mention it, but it's well grounded in that. From an AI perspective, that's actually quite interesting that they have not mentioned it, and it's probably by choice. There is a reason for that.
Yeah. Well, definitely, even because the tools, some of these tools existed even before, the launch of Vision Pro. So they were
they are upgrading it. Yes, correct.
So, and don't not mentioning AI is funny, because actually there was an ex-engineer of Apple that was fired, that went online, on newspapers and blogs, saying that actually it is really AI intensive, the computation. It was talking about eye movement recognition and other kind of tools that could even predict the movement, where are you looking at, and what are you doing, and then anticipating and moving the scene accordingly. Of course, that can be a speculation, because we will never know if actually was disclosing something real, or if but funny the fact that
there is a ton of AI in this product, but AI is a technology term, and Apple never communicate on features or specifications. They always communicate on experience. You remember the iPod iPod adverts in the 2000s. It was, colorful. It was people dancing. They didn't tell you, hey, there is a 1 gigabyte of storage and you can put extra blah, blah songs in it,
They were saying you can store
exactly
hundreds of songs. They were
Exactly.
shifting the conversation from gigabyte to something else, right?
What was important is that you could store your songs on it, and that was the only thing that mattered. And I think they are only basically confirming this during WWDC, is that this is about experience. They create, I don't know, experience technology. I don't know how you want to call how you call themselves, but basically Apple wants to be in their own categories. They do not want to be compared with Microsoft, IBM, Google. They have created their own categories, their own, like, everything, basically, from laptops to studios to softwares. And now they are investing massively in the business side of IT infrastructures and storage, etc. But they are going back there because they used to be there and they gave up at one point. So Google mentioned 140 times AI during their press conference. Okay, it's a technology company, normal. Tim Cook didn't mention it. The only thing that he mentioned was the processors in the Vision Pro headset. And so the M2, which is basically the latest processor that equipped
MacBook,
their products, and R1. And I think it did that, and this is only my speculation. It was to support the fact that the Vision Pro is a computer. It's not a VR AR headset. So that's why he said, because we have a chip that we use in our laptop plus a new chip specifically for AR VR, it is the spatial computer.
I would totally agree, because they are already supporting, even in the version that they're releasing these days, the way to test your existing app in the store. So they are actually meant for you to use your phone apps and your Mac desktop app on it. So it is, totally agree. That's not a headset like another. It's a proper new thing. It's not a mobile. It's a new thing.
I would say that, commercially speaking, for the first time after iPhone 4, really long time ago, I felt that they were finally inventing something new, that they were launching something really revolutionary. I don't know if this is gonna take place, etc. But again, I also, when a big company, large company like Apple launches something, even Meta, or any other company, that I struggle to believe that it's gonna be a total failure. Okay, I struggle to believe.
Well, you mentioned iPhone 4, not 1. So
no, that was on purpose. That was on purpose.
Exactly.
Because iPhone 3G was actually quite a revolution, but it was also very early stage. It took 1 year or two for them to arrive to iPhone 4. 4S actually was perfect product for that time, and it changed the world. I still remember the fantastic presentation they made at that time, and it was introduced as a new browser and a new kind of way to listen to music, so a new iPod and a new a new way to call, and then they said many times until the very moment in which it said, no, it's not 3 different products, it's one single product, and that was iPhone 3G. So changed everything. You remember Nokia or all the other telephones of that period, those who were having that plastic keyboard that was totally ugly.
N8, if I remember.
Yes,
that
come
was
on.
dreadful. The stuff, it was so
BlackBerry
fragile.
and all these.
And you touch it was so fragile.
And really fragile. And then they invented something. And what happened after that is that China companies started to ship to the market, all these new products that were competing against iPhone, because iPhone had this high price for that time and still leaving margin for cheaper devices. and then Google came and placed Android on it, and then this situation happened in which you could buy either one side or the other side of of the market. I have the feeling that probably can happen again. Why not? Because Vision Pro is at the moment will be sold at $3,500. So probably there is still a space for cheaper devices to attack it. Will these new devices be exactly as MetaQuest or Oculus? No, probably not. They will copy now Vision Pro and become something different. And the other very interesting thing is that they started to talk about spatial computing. So if they can convince everyone that there is no reason anymore to look at a frame on your laptop or on your monitor or on your smartphone to do your work, to interact with the digital world, and you can do it at 360 degrees, surpassing the terminology of augmented reality and virtual reality, and starting to talk more about mixed reality, then probably they won. They probably built something very, very interesting, for the future. Yeah,
I think the proof will be in the pudding, and it will depend on the business cases. I think this is you can build something amazing. If no one uses it, it's just wasted. So are we going to have towers in Manhattan or Canary Wharf of people with their Vision Pro in meeting rooms? I don't think so. Because trying to run an Excel spreadsheet even with your eye, you're just no. I need to try, but I would be surprised if people adapt it just for this type of work, and a lot of people do this type of work. So is it going to be, we know in construction, manufacturing, energy sector, yes, they need this augmented reality aspect in addition to their laptop, work on laptop. They need that. They need so there are some clear business cases. After it's the adoption, how software publishers are going to adopt it, and it's quite a high price tag also, $3,500. It's not cheap if you need to buy. If you're a CIO and you need to buy, let's say, 1,000 of them.
Yes. Yeah. And it also has a very low battery life span.
2 hours.
It's 2 hours, so you cannot use it throughout the workday.
That's probably why this is more like an iPhone 3G. Then needs to evolve, needs to be improved. But the adoption is the key, in my opinion. So if the adoption of this is not gonna limit it to a toy for rich people, then probably it will happen. It is something like 5 years, and they know that I'm talking about removing all the monitors, removing all the laptops, or closing your laptop on a side, and have something that makes you interact with the space. At that time we were talking about augmented reality. So I can see very easily software engineers using it. Of course, if you don't have anymore the limitation of the battery, if the products that will be released on the store will be good, like, I don't know, the classic development environments and any other kind of graphic tools, UI UX design and whatever, that is gonna create probably something. Yeah, for sure. We buying all of them for a whole enterprise. It's gonna be really costly. So now it's quite.
This is adoption, and what I find interesting is when you look at the Vision Pro, most of the use cases during the video presentation were people working from home, but Apple has made it almost mandatory for all the employees to go back to the office. So there is something here that doesn't connect. Is okay, you are building something to change others people's life, businesses and employees, but you don't drink your own medicine here.
Yes.
So this is something where I'm a bit confused.
Definitely. Yeah. Technology-wise, instead, Frank, what do you think? We were discussing this in past days. So It's gonna be Swift UI initially, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yes, well, one of the most interesting thing for me is that they are actually allowing to develop on it using Unity, which is a cross-platform game engine.
they made a clear statement about
yes,
that.
they made a clear statement, exactly. And they are, which means that they're also trying to enter that industry as well. Possibly they even position that not as a console, but even trying to move it towards that direction, because they definitely want people to develop games on that. And then, yes, then they have Swift UI, all of those ones that I mentioned before, AR Kit, Reality Kit, Composer, and they essentially are more, while Unity, it's more game oriented. These ones are more like UI oriented, like a few
apps.
Yes, correct.
Interesting. And then probably some other technologies will place, on will position themselves in the cross-platform.
Yes, Unity is
area.
interesting because of this,
Yeah.
because then, as you were mentioning before, the next player that will enter the market with the different hardware, they might actually decide to do the same and adopt Unity as well, which actually that's already a cross-platform.
For applications, probably I see something a little more DOM-based, like a React Native or
it's possible to use
Flutter.
Unity still.
Yeah.
It's just probably
it's not
the
ideal.
best
It's
choice.
not ideal. Yeah. What do we discuss next? What do you suggest?
Let's follow the agenda.
Okay, then the next
If
one.
we're inspired, we speak a lot about it. If not, we get it short.
Okay, now the second topic is shifting a little more into the AI again and ChatGPT and other similar tools. And what we have been discovering is that there is something new coming. The TOT, tree of thoughts, or a chain of thoughts. Also, I read online. Cyril, do you want to explain us a bit what it's about? And
Yes, so people were a bit frustrating, out of the 100 million who started to use ChatGPT, by the limitation of ChatGPT in terms of size of the input, or size also of the output. So basically, you could you could do some stuff, but it was like a lot of copy and paste. For example, or give me an outline for 7 chapters for a book. That's going to, this is the audience of the book, this is a problem we try to address. Okay, and then you have your outline with 7 chapters. Give me 7 topics for my chapter about this. So basically, every time it was like diving more and more and more. And this is basically what tree of thought works like. We start with a trunk, with a base, then we have branches, and then we have sub branches. And basically we try to replicate with ChatGPT what we naturally do. But everything was manual, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. So basically we needed to kind of automate this part here. And this is where kind of Auto GPT and Agent GPT being an online version of Auto GPT arrived, where you can, so either you decide to do all these iterations in one go, so give me 7 chapters title for how to become a great software developer, Unity, and then basically next round say what are the 7 subtopics. Give me 7 exercise, 7 books to read. Usually, by the way, everything in 7 works better with ChatGPT. If you ask more than 10, by the way, it tends not to work too much. So it always ask for small quantity, but you can ask multiple times.
Yes, yeah.
And so what is great also about AutoGPT and Agent GPT is either you say, well, this is the problem I need you to solve, and you have X credits or iterations to do it, or you can say at each iteration, just ask me question to validate that this is the right direction. It's a kind of I did it at the beginning. It's very annoying because like you need to constantly check if it has done a thing. So different questions are done in parallel. So for example, if we take how to become a Unity software developer, there would be, okay, what is Unity? What do you need to know? What are the real basis? What are the requirements before becoming a Unity software developer? What are the basis to know? What are the software development to know? What are the tools to know? So but basically, every iterations will have like several components in itself. I'm not sure I explained it properly.
No, fantastic. I mean, later we're gonna use actually during this episode Agent GPT, that is a beta version, online version of AutoGPT, and we're gonna make some experiments. Let's see if by using it live, we're gonna provide our audience some value. For sure, we can show how this fantastic tool is reasoning. Is computing the information. The topic about the chain of thoughts is actually really interesting, because it seems that Google is about to develop a technology that is going to be focused more on that. And in the human brain and in the human communication practices, usually you have two ways to communicate. One is what is more reflected into ChatGPT at the moment, and the second model is what is representing these tree of thoughts. And probably Google is gonna innovate. Let's see if they will in this direction. And we also found an interesting article that was showing two ways to query ChatGPT, and then how the second way, that is more TOT oriented, can generate a better result, and how actually you can make a ChatGPT fail by giving a prompt that cannot understand really yet. So I'm sharing the screen and showing a bit the article. Tree of Thoughts, a huge leap for ChatGPT toward human level thinking. And yeah, it summarized what I already summarized what it says in terms of the two models, the two systems they define it. And they here even talk more about a more human AI. This is medium.com, by the way, that usually is always very interesting. And I want to jump to the point in which you see they're talking about organizing thoughts in the human way. And they say TOT introduces a new framework for language model inference that generalizes over the popular chain of thoughts approach. So in this case, COT is a very popular way of prompting AI language models. In very simple terms, it's simply asking the model to take its time to answer. Can you believe it? But so the example is very simple. The first one says, if you simply ask it the question without the COT, what happens is that, so this is kind of a riddle that explains in a few sentences the scenario. And it is quite obvious for a human being reading this that the main character of this story is gonna be part of this tragedy. Because
Really, maybe you should read the prompt for people who are on podcast only.
Okay, yes, that makes total sense. So let's read it. It says, a lift is on the ground floor. There are 4 people in the lift, including me. When the lift reaches first floor, 1 person gets out of the 3 people get in, and the 3 people get in. The lift goes up to the second floor, 2 people get out, 6 people get in. It then goes up to the next floor. No one gets out, but 12 people get in. Halfway up to the next floor, up the lift cable snaps. It crashes to the floor. Everyone else dies in the lift. How did I survive? Okay, so this is the riddle. And ChatGPT is saying that basically you survived because you are not actually in the lift. And this is not correct, because it's obvious that you're leaving the lift at a certain point. While instead the second prompt is exactly the same, but it's adding an initial advice for ChatGPT. So and it's saying, your task is to solve this brain teaser encapsulated between backticks. Please follow a step-by-step approach that reasons over every step of the process. Seems such a, simple advice, but actually it's changing the way that the ChatGPT is reasoning, thinking, and pretty much now what happens is that ChatGPT creates a ordered list of steps and is reasoning on each single step, and then answers the final question, saying, now for the final questions, how did I survive? The answer lies in the phrasing of the final sentence. Everyone else dies in the lift. This implies that I was not in the lift when it crashed because blah, blah, blah. So now the answer is correct. So this is probably a little more complex than this, actually a way much more complex than this, but it's definitely interesting to observe, no? The way that you are prompting something to the system can lead to different. Oh, okay, this is something obvious. We know that the prompt is very important, but this can be something enhanced by technology, the technology that Google is about to release. So this is the rumor. This is what they're saying. Frank, I know that on the prompting side, you are quite adamant. What do you want to add to the topic?
I really like this article, but I liked it because I like the concept of chain of thoughts. I just don't like the way they actually use the prompt, because both of them, even the second one, they are meant to trick ChatGPT because of the last sentence. It's actually saying everyone else dies in the lift. So the answer could have just been, well, you just survived because you just told me that the lift crashed and everyone else dies, which means that you just survived, right? But these systems will always try to give you an answer. And they are token based. It actually speaks about the fact that they need tokens. The more tokens you give, tokens we mean words in this case, or context. So the more you give them, and then the more actually ground they have to give you a better position answer. So the backticks there, I don't think that makes a difference. What makes a difference is that you're giving it the task, and so you're actually specifically asking for a more detailed answer. But for me, there is not really a big difference between what it says in the wiki. They're both wrong. What it says in the beginning, it says you were not in the lift, and the second one says you must have gone out. But it could have just said, even for a human, it could have been misleading in my case, in my opinion.
Okay, but I agree. I agree with what you say. I think it's really trying to trap ChatGPT with some play on word, or phrasing it in a way that even humans would be tricked.
Yes, and if we consider like tree of thoughts and chain of thoughts, just methodologies, just methods of how you organize information. Then actually is not just something that ChatGPT does when it gives you the answer, but it's also something that you do when you give it the prompt. You can actually use a chain of thoughts, you can use a tree of thoughts. So the second one is using more of a tree of thoughts, of course, approach, and then you're getting that back, but still it's not giving you the right answer anyway because of the prompt. It might have actually given you, and this is to say that I don't think it's actually making a huge difference in this example. Maybe they used the wrong one.
Yeah.
But I do understand what they are trying to prove and I use it for the code. For example, you can just say, create me a server that does this, and you're not telling it like what machine you're on, what technology you want to use. You're not giving it any information, so it will just spit something out, and
needs
you
to be
cannot
more
do
specific
anything.
for sure, because
Exactly.
this is a tool. And you mentioned, Cyril, that even a person will be tricked by this kind of input, no? So what was coming in my mind is a bit of a parallel with what actually happens already in the companies, when it comes to communication. Companies everywhere, actually, in every environment. Communication is always a challenge, because people tend to partially explain what actually they have in their own mind, and then this might be wrongly understood by the other party, up to the point that this can create some problems in the in the execution of a task or whatever. And the classic example of a chain of people that one is saying something to the other one, and then to the other one, and then the last one actually understood a totally different thing, and this is very common. Then on top of that, you have to understand that we find, at least here in Europe, we find English as a common ground to communicate, but we are not all native speakers. So that adds an additional layer of complexity on top of it. And it's funny the way that communication with the machine is also going to be a challenge. That is where I wanted to arrive. It's not going to solve this problem, it seems.
Well, they're based on us, right? This is the parallelism I really like. They are based on us, so they will actually have the same limitations as we have from a certain point of view.
Yeah, clearly.
But it's very important what you say. We are not English native speakers, but these tools use English as a way to interact with the machine, AI. Our English is different from a native English speaker. And just these little variations are enough for us to get a different result.
Yep.
And that's why when we write a prompt, we pay a lot of attention about how we structure the sentence with, describing well, what is bot about, what is the context, what is the mission, because we need to have a kind of compensate something like a disadvantage by adding extra information to ensure that everything is there. For example, the different tense in English and other European languages are, different.
Yeah.
So depending on which one you're going to choose when you're going to write your prompt, may have an influence on the end result.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you ever tried writing the same prompt in different languages?
I tried.
I used 3. It's just, of course, it's just like it makes no difference to the system.
I tried something actually really odd, I would say. I had a document in Italian, and I was creating something like documentation, whatever. And I explicitly asked the ChatGPT to build, the document actually in English. So I was cutting and pasting this huge document in Italian. And I asked to do an elaboration to ChatGPT, but give me as the output in English. And actually it worked.
Yes.
And this is actually really interesting.
So I have a similar story. So, they have a whisper for speech to text. And one of the default mode you can say is, auto detects the language. And I was interviewing a French person, but in English.
Okay.
And what Whisper did is basically, so it was to do a transcript to add, the captions on the video. And what he did, basically, he transcribed the conversation in English, but he translated it in French. And I got the stuff in French. I said, what do I do with that? So sometimes it's too clever. You would thought that, even foreign people speaking English, you want the result in English, but he thought that I wanted a translation in French.
So again, the prompt was important, right? Because if
so I just uploaded the file.
Okay.
So it was this decision. It's just, me saying that I didn't indicate the original file was in English. So
interesting. It starts like a joke. There is a German guy, an Italian guy, and a French guy in a room. It's anyway. Okay, you anticipated another very important topic, and now I'm talking a bit with our audience that probably is wondering what is this Auto GPT that we mentioned, Agent GPT online version. Actually, Cyril described it very accurately, and at the end of this episode, we're gonna use it, make a live experiment to try to understand how it works. But generally speaking, what happened to me in the last days was to try to use more this tool for business development. And as a software engineer, I usually tend to not be that happy when I see this much creativity into the the business development process, because for me it is a science. It needs to be a science, so proper marketing is another thing, but when it comes to business development, it's more about finding strategies, accrue data and analyze it, and then test enough so that you can make some evaluations, starting from an hypothesis. And I wanted to use technology to try to see what it could be, and made some experiments. Actually, I'm using it on a daily basis now and for many tasks, and it's very, very cool, I would say. And it came to, so the idea was to prompt some simple strategies analysis, or request to build some strategies themselves for software houses like Lasting Dynamics. And I wanted to understand where this tool was going. And I discovered that actually it's extremely accurate. And it is based on the OKRs system that I personally used to build the company, in my early stages as an entrepreneur. So definitely I like it. And the idea that in order to catch a bigger goal, you can find you can break it down into pieces, and then learn down the road if there are more sub steps to add to the equation. That is actually what for me is making this tool way much more powerful than the classic chat GPT. It has definitely a different goal, but it's very, very interesting. And yeah, so long story short, it came to my mind, some of our friends at the Brand Ambassador in 2017, 2018, they were doing something, in my opinion, genius. I took this occasion to say, hi, Thomas, if you're watching the episode. The idea that they had was they had this amazing marketing, sales, and business development team. It was huge. It was in London and distributed also all around the world. And they had this 3-tier architecture. Okay, so long story short, was scrapping, growth hacking, then analysis, and in the end, sales. I can tell you, without going in details, because I don't want to exploit any strategy of our friends, etc. But in details, I can tell you that 2 out of 3 steps could be now totally replaced by AutoGPT. And that is really interesting to observe from many perspectives. Of course, the last step was the sales. I know that we might have different opinions on it, but do you think that also the final step, like the sales, could be automated somehow, could be replaced by AI, or if in which way? What do you think?
I would for cold leads, for example, no. So you still have, in my opinion, you still need people to grab the phone or go to the door and actually sell.
Human touch.
Yes, so you're gonna, yeah. Well, this is not just something that I think it will be this way, but I probably hope it will be this way, because these things have the capacity to completely replace us. In if you think about 20 years. So I don't want to be, yes, too dramatic here, but yeah, this is a hope. I think we're not there yet, but we could be. I think in this case, no, the sales, at least, it is something that for me is a person task. Of course, if you have clients coming to you, then you can have certainly part of the sales process replaced. But in this sense of grabbing the phone, calling, going to the actual person, meetings.
But instead, there is a part that I know that Cyril thinks is actually already automated, right? That in terms of sales.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Frank. It considerably changed with the digital age. Yeah, that's many reasons. First is a list, notion of list, because before it was very expensive to mail whatever you wanted in return to people at home. So the spam was maybe less and more qualitative. But now, basically, once you have built your list with people who have expressed an interest in what you do, or part of what you do, you don't even need to make a sale with them. You just need to have attracted them to your list. then you can start the cold sales process. Whatever the product is, which is either intangible product like courses, education, or food, or services, or holidays, and even more and more for business and professional services, which is legal, accounting. I don't know how many times per day I'm contacted for people who want to do or redo my website or whatever. So there is a process here. Is it efficient? Probably not, because I would say that most of them act like spammer, and maybe they don't use enough data. As I say, have I opened their email? Have I clicked on some links? After, you need to be very granular on your analysis, especially in professional services, because your list is not going to be in millions, but maybe in thousands, and maybe potentially the number of customers you can get from one campaign is maybe the number of my hand. So let's not forget, I like to give this example. 25 years ago, a family visited 7.8 times a car showroom before buying a car. Today, it's less than 1 time. So it's the same product, it's a car, but the selling process has completely changed. And this is because car manufacturers, they try to anticipate when also people are going to change their car. They focus more on the services aspect, the maintenance, the leasing extra. So the process has changed with the usage and as the technology has evolved too.
So you're saying that in the upcoming future, this is going to change more and more, because now we have already something like the chat automations that can, do customer support or even sales most of the time, or eventually data analysis that across the hot leads with the interest, people interested into them. So I see this changing, and probably can go in that direction as well. Funny aspect that probably I agree with you. Funny aspect that probably puts this more into the direction that Frank was saying before. Do you know that in Italy, for example, the SMS is still the most used, tool in order to reach out to someone? Like, it converts more than email in many sectors.
You know why, in my opinion? Because you don't have as many emails, as many advertising media, like people, they're not exposed to that type of advertising as much as they are as soon as they go on Google, as soon as they open a website, as soon as they open their emails. And this is also the reason, because this is what historically has happened. Before, old school marketing, it was TV advertising. Nobody was used to that, and that was effective. And then the more and more advertising you get, the less effective it is, because people got
of course.
Same thing with emails, Google ads, or any type of search ads, advertising. And now it's not as effective because we are bombarded. Now, of course, as soon as we're going to have like these sales bots, they might be actually effective, but as this technology gets more and more and more democratic, and this process is actually much faster now than what it was before, people are going to get used to it. And maybe, and again, this is my hope, still human touch is going to make a difference.
For our audience, AutoGPT is a tool that you find on GitHub and that you can download and install. You just need to have a Python. You can use the Dockerized version if you prefer. Additionally, what you will have to do is to generate an API key on OpenAI so that you can feed it to the tool, and it will be able to, to spend a bit of your money in order to execute. And that will be a very powerful tool. The Agent GPT beta version actually executes only 5 iterations. It's a bit limited. Actually, you cannot use it all, but it's nice to understand, to play, with it, and understand how it, this tool is reasoning, is working, and we will do that, okay, at the end of the episode. But let's move forward, if you agree. I wanted also to touch a bit of Web3 and and NFT blockchain topics. And I personally think that something big is happening now in the upcoming future. The reason why I'm saying is that it's now everyone is talking about Vision Pro and AI, and they totally forgot about blockchain and whatever it is. Of course, when you go to the community, everyone speaks about NFT, blockchain, and what is going on here, what is going on there. But from our perspective, what we usually see is that when the cryptocurrencies go up and become a little more mainstream again, and everyone starts to invest into it and, goes on newspaper and blogs, etc., then there is again a big interest and entrepreneurs come in and invest into dApps, DeFi, and whatever. So so the halving is coming. I'm going to carry it there. The halving is coming.
So what is a halving?
Halving is coming in April 2024, if I'm right. So what is the halving? The halving is an event in the Bitcoin community that drives the whole conversation and the whole market, in my opinion, in the crypto space. So it's so how does it work? So in order to validate the transactions what is happening in the Bitcoin community is that people are creating mining farms. These mining farms are just computational resources put at disposal of a net, of a cloud environment, or that individually are acting as as validators. And what they do is that they research a string that in the time becomes always harder and harder to get. And when you get it, then you get rewarded by the the algorithm. And this reward every 4 years helps. The reward, of course, is in Bitcoin. What happens here is that and this is just an example. Initially, just to let you understand, initially you could get 20 Bitcoins, then after 4 years it became 10, then after 4 years it became 5, and then 2.5, etc., etc. So what happens at this point during the halving is that mining will not remain profitable anymore, because the reward that you get is not sufficient to justify the whole energy that you put into your mining farm and the cost that you have been affording in order for buy the mining grids, but also remember about refrigeration, security, and many other things. So that kind of event implies two possible scenarios. One is the market that is falling because everyone starts to sell the Bitcoin and additionally stops the mining farms. The other option that actually happened all the time is that the Bitcoin price goes up, and for this reason, it is still viable to mine. And it's happening again. It happened in 2019 last time. Now it's happening again in 2024. It was 2020, 2019. Now it's happening again in 2024. And this usually is a shock for the community, because if the price of Bitcoin goes up, we know that all the other cryptos will follow, and there is going to be again a bull market, as they define it, where everyone is drastically investing and putting money into the crypto compartment. And this implies also that the people gain again confidence in investing into this kind of applications. So long story short, okay, VR, AI, we are talking a lot about this, but blockchain is coming again. It's gonna become to conclude, the last time, so I was way much younger. It was 8 years ago or more. At that time, the real thing into the crypto space in terms of projects was ICO launch, initial coin offering, and so new tokens, basically new coins, with an emulation of the IPO, basically, and of course, all the kind of application for decentralized finance, etc. While instead, what happened later was the same, but with the NFT. So NFT became super, mainstream. Everyone talking about NFT. Everyone wanted to launch their own NFT. Even football players, Pogba did the Crypto Dragons, and many others. What will happen next? We have to see what is gonna be the new, season of the crypto. But it's definitely happening. What is your yeah?
You have said so many things. I just wanted just to rebound on one thing. NFTs, for example, NFTs are used to certify the origin of some microchips. Let's say you have a QR code on the chips, and like this, you can basically check the authenticity of the chip that you have, because it's apparently becoming a problem in the supply chain. And so basically, the NFTs is not the funny image of a chip. That was maybe just art. Maybe it will always be there on the market, but that's not going to be the main part of NFTs. It's NFTs is going to be used mainly for proof of ownership or authenticity. That's going to be what's going to drive the
validation of provenance as well. I saw a lot of projects in 2019 and 2020 that were centered around the fact that you could actually use NFT for solving real problems like a trademark registration, or validate what is the whole on the blockchain exchange of primary goods, or authenticity of even on the wine. Someone was doing these NFT labels that could prove this is an authentic Barolo or whatever.
Good choice. It's also used, for example, to track carbon emission for some products.
Carbon emission, yes.
Because of course, the fact that it's on a blockchain this, you can follow what has been the consumption, the carbon consumption. So many possibilities with NFTs. We haven't started, but I'm happy to move away from this. I don't know, PS applications. People try to get quick bucks on this, and some made a lot of money with that. But it was a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. At a certain point, the launch of NFTs was literally, I mean, if you follow the lists, the main lists, and websites that started to advertise them, oh my gosh, it was totally easy to understand. Most of them were totally out of control. Everyone.
It felt like people who missed the beginning of Bitcoins say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get my revenge now."
Totally, yeah.
Same thing with the coins in general, with crypto coins that were created. There were an infinity numbers, still is. And actually, on this topic, I'm not very, very well fond on this subject, but I'm always curious on how new technologies interact with one another. And one thing that caught my mind is actually how people used ChatGPT to create a coin. It's called Turbo Coin, I think.
Oh, really?
Which a market cap now is at $30 million or so. It reached $30 million or something. And the whole process of creating the actual contract, it was all automated. The name, the contract, the actual marketing behind it. I don't want to say the site, but also that is possible.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also the usage of ChatGPT to create tools and automations for the stock market, right? That is also a thing. I saw some kind of, ChatGPT, but also much more AI-based tools to replace all those algorithms, that we used to have in order to interact with the Coinbase API or any other kind of API, right?
There is actually a great news stories of how ChatGPT outperformed some of the fund managers by selecting stocks. They actually went they gave him a task to select some stocks from, I don't remember which stock exchange exactly. And it outperformed by something like 10%. What actually the actual choices of the biggest farms was, and it did. If you think about it, it actually is not surprising, because at the end of the day, picking stocks is just about data numbers and the analysis that you make. And if you feed it with the financial statements, for example, from companies, and you have something like AutoGPT, which is connected to real-time data, is just can make a much better analysis than any other analyst, unless the only thing I can think of that those big farms can have information that are not disclosed, but doesn't look this way because it still outperformed them.
Would be nice to make an experiment with the tiny investments, because we have also to be careful, this doesn't mean that the people will be able to use ChatGPT and then invest. This is what we are not definitely suggesting, because I know how could be, frustrating to, thinking that ChatGPT is your god of investment, and actually might lead to losing some money. But definitely would be nice to make some small investments and see if actually ChatGPT, with the database that has at its own disposal, can suggest something valuable, in terms of investment, especially if you can give, financial statements, like you said, etc. That's actually really interesting. You were telling me something. You did something like that, right? Why don't you?
Before the WWDC conference of Apple, I actually knew that, well, everybody knew that Vision Pro was coming out. So my thought process was like, of course they are going to have to source their hardware from some companies. And I thought of going to actually Agent GPT, which is the AutoGPT version you mentioned before, and asking to give me the list of all companies which are listed on the stock markets. I gave it specific exchanges that are most likely to be partners of Apple's, and actually didn't just give me those that are most likely, gave me those that already are, and they already have signed contracts.
Okay.
So I decided to invest in a couple of them. They're doing okay.
Let's see. Good luck. It's gonna be.
I love the approach. I love the approach. They say Apple is too obvious. Let's go for the second line.
Correct.
No, that's very clever, very interesting approach.
Yeah. Okay. So this also leads to staying on the blockchain, and on the what we were thinking in these days, and what actually Cyril brought up in it was yesterday, if I recall, is this parallel and connection between the tokenization system of OpenAI and how actually this is still a centralized solution, right? So
yes, what I think something that has been undervalued so far is the usage of tokens. So I'm not talking specifically about ChatGPT, but OpenAI with the API and how you consume tokens. And I know it's not the tokens definitions that we use with the blockchain and crypto, but it's very similar, because in this case it's centralized probably in one database, and you buy X token, and that with each token you can have X text with GPT 3.5 or X text with GPT-4, and rather than talking X words for X dollars, they use the word token as an intermediary between the money value and the output from the API. And I think that's going to help people to transition to a world with tokens, because after you can combine tokens from data sets where you are going to, I'm going to consume 200,000 rows of this data set, and I pay, like by how much, how fresh is my data, or, you can imagine all type of tokenization here. With the tokenization of your API, of your GPT, your AI algorithm, with some maybe rendering behind in terms of art, copywriting, whatever. So you can see how we are going to use this notion of tokens once again, which is not exactly the way in the crypto world, but basically it could, at the end, basically they could merge. But I found this interesting, and Yeah.
Maybe less on the gambling side, on the, you know, and more on the
Absolutely.
actually definition of blockchain and
On the value creation.
the value that the blockchain brings. Because if you buy some tokens now from OpenAI, you cannot you know, exchange them with other people. You cannot sell them.
You cannot speculate with them.
Exactly. And another thing that might be interesting also is that you have a validation. You know, you have a validation through blockchain of the creation, you know, of the tokens and the exchange of the tokens among different wallets, among different people. That definitely brings a value. And to be honest, they have been advertising the blockchain as the solution for all these video games that were, you know, giving you in-game points or rewards or tokens. They even called tokens, but you cannot use them anywhere else other than in that system. You know, that was the topic. Or eventually, what if the server goes down? You lose everything you bought, you know, and then they started to create these games decentralized. So why not doing it for something like OpenAI? Extremely interesting, you know, or eventually create some token that can be used on the cloud or, you know, across all the cloud providers or AI services providers.
Yeah, and I tried to sell this idea many years ago to have the tokenization of resources. You know, in large organizations, you know, a software developer doesn't worth the same for each department, depending at the same time of the year. So, you know, financial department, accounting, you know, it's at, you know, every quarter usually, plus the annual return. So they want everybody, you know, ready. They want to have the systems to be tested, ready for the production of the accounts. Marketing will have also the campaign waves, specific amount of time. And basically, if you tokenize, basically, and you can ensure the optimization of workforce or resources across the year. Of course, if you can shift the resources across different projects or optimization. So this tokenization aspect, I'm sure we are going to see more and more coming in the coming years in different shape and form. It's not going to be limited to what we've seen so far.
So Frank, the token that now is used through OpenAI is, you confirm that is actually just a way to solve a technical problem of how the resources are engaged or sold through the cloud platforms, right?
Specifically in the context of ChatGPT, it's a different meaning. It's actually a piece of text. So and this is why we were saying before, they like the article that we read that the algorithm like tokens, because the more you give it, the more pieces of text, the more tokens, the more background it has and the more context it has. So this is a different.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, what is behind that? There is a machine that is used, that is spending energy, that is applying you know, a certain computational resource for a while, and that costs 0.0 something per minute per request, according, you know, to the model. Then probably I don't know, I'm trying to read, you know, doing a reverse engineering process. So the way to sell these to an end user is not that intuitive, it's not that easy, especially when it comes to the amount of words that you are using. How do you convert this amount of words into, you know, this sense of spent for the execution?
It's not that easy to communicate, and in fact they are not. The way, for example, if you use Ep.4, what you're getting is a maximum number of queries that you can do every 3 hours. And I guess that's just a calculation that they have done based on the number of users they have, and the one that they know. It actually went down. It should be 20 now. It used to be 25. And of course behind it there is all of the hardware and resources, and based on that then a number of tokens in the sense of words, it's a maximum number of tokens that you can get back.
There is a space for innovation in that direction, or for tweaking, you know, the concept, because now seems a bit rudimental, a bit rough.
Well, yeah, well, I think what I did was basically a way to allow a maximum number of people to access to ChatGPT without some people abusing it, or creating some farm bots to exploit again ChatGPT. So I think it's so far so good. I mean, if you do more than 30 prompts every 2 hours, something like this,
2020 at the
well,
moment.
you're serious.
Yeah, well, when you start using, the more you use it,
Yeah.
the more
After
you use
share,
it.
you share the account, like yeah, you are a copywriting agency and you have one account, and yeah.
Okay, let's look together at this picture. I think we are going again into the scary topic of
AI replacing humans.
I was finding another way to say it. But anyway, this is actually saying a highest potential for automation. US industries with the highest potential for automation. It's looking into the various industries and it's giving a percentage, kind of rate in which probably AI automation will operate the most. And here we have at the first place with the 46%, it is office and administrative support. The second place is legal at 44, and third, architecture and engineering. Then, of course, if we check it from the bottom, 1% is building, grounds, cleaning and maintenance, 4% installation, maintenance and repair, and 6% construction and extraction. What do you think?
I have an amazing story about the second position, the legal industry.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a couple of pieces of news that I read about, which are at the opposite side of the spectrum. One, it's a kind of bad story, and it's also about the problems that these technologies can use, and it's about lawyers that actually use the ChatGPT to formulate their case, of course, probably they didn't do their duty to actually check if what the ChatGPT was formulating was correct, because actually the judge and the opposition actually challenged them, saying that a lot of the facts that were there were not real facts.
Yeah.
And actually they insisted, saying that no, this is not possible, because they didn't know that one of the biggest problems of these technologies is that they can make up facts. They can be very good at telling you something, but it's not necessarily the truth. And so they got, and so they got fined. And on the other side of the spectrum, there is another piece of news stories of a judge that actually used it to rule for a ruling. And this is actually on the other side of the spectrum, not just because it's a judge rather than a lawyer, but also because of the way it used it. Well, the controversy was that he actually admitted of using it by its own will. But he actually said, and then he was very cautious in saying that, of course, you can use it. And he was saying that you need to use it because you need to stay up to date, and it can actually help you a lot in your day-to-day work. But you need to double check everything that it's saying
quality
there.
assurance, right?
Yes, of course. But if this is also to say that if these tools, if used properly, they can help a lot.
I have a content about making quality assurance more than actually operating. That is what probably will be the future. But I'm really
I find very scary the judge example, because it's typical, with the chain of thought, where I guess the way they are trained is some start with the facts, similar cases, etc. And basically, ChatGPT or other AI tool could potentially, with the same facts and same context, but with a different chain of thought, arrive to a different conclusion.
I see where you're going. So, well, now I'm going to tell you what the actual piece of legislation was about, which is actually scarier, because the ruling was about an autistic child whose family couldn't pay the fee for the treatments that he needed. And so the judge actually asked GPT if in Argentina, I guess it was, it's fair that the insurance company pays for the old treatment. So when you see it in this way, you think about, should we really ask ChatGPT? Because what if it says that no, the insurance company should not pay? And should you just trust it? And maybe if it's right, but
when it comes to
you don't know.
justice,
And the
it's
point
scary.
is, yeah,
Can I
because
say it's really scary
the
when it
point you
comes to
don't
justice.
know how it got to that conclusion of these algorithm. You can get a very truthful result and a real result, but you don't know how actually got there to say that person needs to go to jail, that person is not an offender, that person is an offender.
That AI could become a tool also for politics. For example, is something that probably we know will happen unless, probably regulation, but will definitely help in that direction, in many directions, to make probably fair rules, help fair, and the decisions. But the idea that a judge is asking a rudimental AI tool, because it's really early stage tool, what should be the final decision, on a case, that honestly scares me, because we're talking about justice.
Yeah, and what does ChatGPT knows about Argentinian laws? Because I guess that all the laws have been incorporated in the money. You don't know how they've been segregated.
Yeah, a funny fact is that there was a disclaimer at the end of ChatGPT answer itself saying that you should not use ChatGPT for ruling in cases.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I find interesting here is if you look at the bottom, it's basically jobs and functions with cheap labor cost, or something that you cannot replace, but even someone who is going to maintain a building, it's not the highest paid people. So the prioritization, I think, takes also into consideration how much savings you can make implementing AI. If we take at the top, now if we go back at the top, you say, hey, Cyril, but office and administrative support, they are not the most paid people in the company. No, but they are the largest number. So, most of the largest banks in the world have all operations in India, where basically people are just rekeying or doing manual operations because they didn't want to, for whatever reason, automate that. Now these centers in India, Kenya, Philippines, where you have a lot of people doing manual work on the computer, shifting data from database A to database B, that's going to change a lot. And this type of job are going to change a lot. In Europe and North America, we have already considerably reduced the number of administrative and support workers in the office. When I started a long time ago, all the directors had a personal assistant and stuff like this. This is not the case anymore. So you can see that over time things have changed. But in the low cost country, this hasn't been done yet. So what this graph doesn't say is not necessarily where it's going to happen, even if it's a US industries. US is quite a bureaucratic country, despite what people think. So not surprising. I'm not surprised by, honestly, this list. We probably agriculture, where you have farming, fishing. Farming is one that needs to be automated because for many different reasons, it's very difficult to recruit, fruit pickers, for example, during the summer in England. Now, very different because since Brexit, it's far more complex to get some working visa for this type of workers. So you need this type of automation. And also new types of farming, like underwater farming, which are currently in prototype. You are not going to send divers to collect the salads in the domes. So you need to imagine new type of robots to collect these products.
Here it says 300 million number of full-time jobs that could be impacted by AI globally. It's even going one extra mile and giving you a number, and
there are already 100% of us around this table. In one way or another, our job is going to change because of AI.
Yeah, that's true. Every industrial revolution made it happen, so I think it's just a matter of reorganizing, the workforce.
Yeah, and I noted a quote, so I'm going to put my glasses. It's you cannot talk butterfly language to caterpillar people. And when we prepared this slide, it reminds me when I started my career back in the 90s. Sorry for that. So it was the beginning of internet. Very few people at Internet at Home Extra, and a lot of executive business people saw that internet was just something of the time. Is just something that was going to pass. And they were like the pioneers, people who said that's going to change the world, and people who say no, that's never going to work.
And it's an old thing,
and so we are exactly the kind of same situation here, with people say no, unions are going to protect us, regulations, extra.
No, technology is usually stronger and fast.
We are going to face a lot of people in deny, because for them it's going to be, I have to retrain, potentially have to find a new job, I potentially have to relocate. So the consequences are very painful. So they prefer to not think about what's going to happen. But the best way is going to be ready. So just, don't be the caterpillar, start to learn to speak butterfly, because it will be easier for you on the way.
Interesting. My case instead goes into direction of legal and architecture and engineering, and I can tell you two funny stories. The first one is
it's a funny show today. A lot of funny stories.
There is a large enterprise that does consultancy. I'm not gonna say any name, that now is building this AI tool that aggregates all the tons and of documents that they have in their database in order to provide automations on the legal consultancy, and they are building it now. So since ChatGPT, and all the FOMO around the AI tools, and topic, they started to work in this direction. Second one, instead, something that I touched with my hands. So and it's architecture and engineering, more architecture, I would say. So one of the spin-off of the group Lasting Dynamics is the real estate. And what we are doing there is using a technology that comes from the R&D of Lasting Dynamics software, and is used to create new opportunities also into the real estate field. Most of the time we try to use one new tool and use it in many directions. So both on the real estate side and the software house. And what we discovered here is that there are some AI tools that do not only scan the environment and perform the rendering of the environment, giving you a possibility. At the moment it's just a 2D, but it's not gonna, be so far the time in which a 3D rendering will be automated as well. And literally you can take common room that needs to be renovated and get thousands of options on how you can renovate it, and where you can place the furnitures, etc. And this is already a game changer. Then there is another tool that even takes the planimetry of the apartment, of the building, and suggests thousands of options to build the walls and create rooms and shape the entire floor. Then of course takes also in account electricity implant and some other stuffs, and most probably as of now you still need an engineer to assess what we are doing, what was the suggestion, let's call it suggestion, given by the AI. and the architect to fill up the bureaucracy, to deposit the project at a town hall, etc., etc. But it is automating 70% of it, or at least 50% of it, and this is already happened. It's gonna become a mainstream sooner or later. Eventually, the architects now, what they can do is to use the AI to potentially work on many projects concurrently, or to provide more options and then perform quality assurance, on their own to their clients. Well, that's super interesting, the way it goes. Okay.
Just to illustrate your aspect about the importance, of the visualization. When the A380 was developed, what they call the spider, so all the cable system, which is the most expensive part of the plane. They tried to basically fit it the first time, and it was too short. It didn't work. And basically, they realized that the French people used the 3D system, Katia from Dassault System, and the German people refused to use the French tool. So they were using 2D systems, and basically they ended up with a spider. So the most expensive stuff, the first one that was too short. So yeah, and you lose time, of course, because after you have to recalculate everything extra. So it's just to illustrate that AI tool and rendering with the addition of AR, VR, extra, you can validate with some AI tools. They would have been able to validate the length of the cables, saving time, improving the communications between the French and the German. So it has real consequences in real life in terms of cash flow operations, etc. That's may reduce the capital needed also to enter some specific industries, and as usual, to disrupt an industry. So that's going to be fascinating. What's we're going to see in about 10-15 years.
Yeah.
Very soon.
Definitely. Absolutely. And just to add one extra note on that, what are we?
A funny one?
Huh?
A funny one?
No, it's not that funny. It's interesting. So the what we are also doing now with the VR tools is creating environments that could let someone understand how their apartment out of the building is going to look like. That is something that the AI probably cannot do yet, but at a certain point we'll be able to emulate and do, because now we're doing it, with a bit of coding and genuine effort. Anyway, okay, so to conclude, now we arrive to the end of this episode, and our promise was to look into Agent GPT together. So we look at one content, the piece of content that we have, and starting from this, then we will try to play a bit with the Agent GPT. Okay. Here we go. So this guy in this video is using a ChatGPT to get a diet from it, and also the list of food that he has to buy at the supermarket in order to keep up with the diet. And let's listen to it very briefly.
Right, and now go to ChatGPT and say the following: create a 3-day meal plan using the following parameters: 3 meals per day, 2,000 calories per day, high in protein for the gains. Let's see what it gives us. Here is a potential 3-day meal plan that fits the parameters you specified. Okay,
So
it's provided the first version. Now let's make a few modifications. Provide this in table format.
Now a table is appearing.
Right, great. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. So final modification, provide this as a shopping list.
And finally,
here is a potential shopping list for the 3-day meal plan. That's great. So I could easily copy and paste this into my notebook and go shopping.
I just wish there was a button I just order.
Yeah, well, that there are a lot of things here that could be added in terms of prompting ChatGPT, no? So there are a lot of things that that are missing. Cyril, the first time we saw it, was mentioning
Yes, the balance between protein, carbs, and fat. Also, it didn't really indicate the quantity of each ingredients. It didn't say how to prepare them, how to cook them. So that was some limitations that you can, of course, ask with more prompts. But
male, female, right?
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Male, female. What is the objective? Well, he put 2,000 calories, so he had an objective. Objective there. But what I find interesting also is that this kind of diet or workout programs have been some of the first things that people ask ChatGPT. It's I don't want to read this article anymore. It's like how we become lazier and lazier, and it's just like we ask a robot that we don't know how it has been built for our diet and what we should cook tonight.
It is also about personalization, though, because even when you read an article, it's still very generalized.
Very good.
I understand your point, and I myself use it because sometimes I take articles which are too long and say, hey, can you summarize them and take takeaways for these when I don't have time to read. But in other cases like this one, you can actually make it very personal to you. And it got much better than this one, because normally now it says you need to look for a doctor, and also it asks you, it depends if you're a man or if you're a woman and all of other concerns. So it's becoming better and better every day.
In many movies, AI was described as is it the time machine? Probably the one in this picture that I have in front of me. The AI is used as a kind of source of knowledge. Like all the knowledge is into the AI in every movie, not every movie, but most of the movies. And then what happens is that the people query the AI in order to learn.
This is what I'm doing.
And it's going in this direction somehow, Let's listen to what Gary V said that is somehow connected. It's another topic, but he's mentioning diets.
It's connected to what Cyril said before about having a button to order it.
Exactly.
How many people here have used ChatGPT or an AI thing? I don't think people realize that Alexa and Google Home and Apple Home are about to use this for real, for real. I don't think people realize it's going to look like this. Hey, Alexa, I have 6 of my son's friends coming over. 2 are lactose intolerant. 1 is vegan. 3 are a mess, and I'd like them to eat it. And I'd like them to eat a little healthier. I only have a couple $100 in budget, and they'll be here for about 4 or 5 hours, but I also need something quick and snacky in the morning because they're going to sleep over, and I want to send them home with something. Send it. That's how people are going to shop. So what I just said is real life in 5, 7, 9, 10 years.
Can be, yeah. I mean, that would also solve the problem of spending a lot of time on Amazon, moving around and trying to understand what you want to buy. Let's play a bit with Agent GPT, as promised to our audience. Now we are going to use it. It's a reduced version. It's a beta version of AutoGPT that is deployed online, so you can use it without installing it locally, and this definitely is a good way to try, and see how it works. So, do we use the diet and try with that?
Let's go.
We prepared already a prompt. The name of the agent in this case is gonna be
Diet coach.
Diet coach. Okay, that coach, and then we have the prompt that we prepared. Let's read it together. So the way it works for who is just listening to us is that you give it a name of the agent that you want to deploy, and then you describe the goal as you usually do on ChatGPT. And then by running it, Agent GPT is able to analyze the goal, the structure, the objective into key results, and then create additional subtasks and iterate until the problem is totally solved. Okay, so the prompt here is, I need a diet plan to lose 6 kilos in 2 months based on the fact that I'm 33 years old male, having a weight 94 and being 183 centimeters tall, not eating any meat, living in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, working from 8 to 12 hours per day in the office, Monday, Friday, swimming 2 times per week, 1 hour each, sporadically playing table tennis. The diet should not provide any complex prepared meal, since there is no possibility to cook more than a few times per week. Okay, so this was our prompt. And we ran it. So Agent GPT says thinking, and then adds immediately 4 tasks. The first one is calculate the daily calorie intake needed to lose 6 kilos in 2 months. The second task is research and compile a list of vegetarian meals that can be prepared with minimal cooking. Create a meal plan for each day of the week based on the calorie intake and vegetarian options. Monitor weight loss progress and make adjustments to the meal plan as necessary. So then it starts to execute the task number 1. It's a kind of recursive, strategy. That was calculated the daily calorie intake needed to lose 6 kilos in 2 months. So to calculate the daily calorie intake needed to lose 6 kilos, we need to consider several factors. Basal metabolic rate, BMR, and then make some equation and calculation. Then using the weight of 95 kilograms and the height of 183, we can calculate your BMR as follows. That makes the whole calculation, and it tells that we need 2040 calories. Physical activity level, PAL, since you work in an office for 8 to 12 hours per day, your PAL is considered sedentary. However, since you also swim 2 times per week for 1 hour each and play table tennis sporadically, we can consider your PAL a lightly active. This means multiplying your BMR by 1.375. Daily calories intake, and then caloric deficit. To lose weight, you need to create a caloric deficit by consuming fewer calories than your body needs. A general rule of thumb is to aim for deficit of 500 to 1000 calories per day to lose 0.51 kilo per week. Interesting. We are learning a lot. And
if it's true.
If it's true. Since you want to lose 6 kilos in 2 months, approximately 8 weeks, you can aim for a caloric deficit of 750 calories per day. Adjust the daily calorie intake and then make all the calculation. Therefore, you to lose 6 kilos in 2 months, you should aim for a daily calorie intake of approximately 2058 calories. And initially, it was 2040. So it grew. But now it's taking in account also.
Because
I'm lightly active.
He calculates the calories you needed to stay alive, basically, but to maintain your weight. Then he added a multiplicator to consider your swimming activities.
Okay.
And then he calculated how much calorie how much calorie deficit you must perform to arrive to the last number. And by the way, it sounds right, because if I remember, a pound of fat, so about 500 grams of fat, it's about 3,500 calories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically
makes sense.
Max the calorie deficit here.
Yeah, because the key is here: daily calorie intake, BMR multiply the PAL, daily calories intake, and says 2040 for 1.375, and then it comes to 2,800. Yeah. So from these, then it says, okay, you have we need to calculate the deficit, and the deficit is 750. and then it comes to 2058. Okay, then I have to keep up with the swimming and the playing table tennis, otherwise this will not work. Then calculate the second task is monitor weight loss progress and make adjustments to the meal plan as necessary. This is the second one that wants to execute. And it says 10, no cook vegetarian dinners. No, wait, then, no, wait. Okay, I know what is happening. He added the new task. This is very interesting. So, and it is OKRs based. So while you are iterating and finishing some tasks, so you can discover something more that you have to execute. And that is truly agile, no? Because otherwise it will be totally waterfall. And what is happening here is that he's pinning a new task. So it says, okay, I discovered a new task that I will execute later. And now it starts with research and compile a list of vegetarian meals that can be prepared with minimal cooking.
Yes, that's the one he listed before at the beginning.
Yeah. And now it's giving, it's executing it. Research and compile a list of vegetarian meals. And it's 10 no-cook vegetarian dinners for summer. Mediterranean chickpea and feta wraps. Then vegetarian taco salad. Greek panzanella. Tomato chickpea salad. How to make summer rolls. Pesto and egg baguette sandwich. Okay, this doesn't sound that interesting, to be honest. It's just a list that probably is cutting and pasting from someone else.
No, the interesting
somewhere
part here is just the breaking down. You gave it one thing and he broke it down and
Yeah.
it's executing
Yes,
it.
yes. Now adds a new task and then it starts to executing, create a meal plan for each day of the week based on the calorie intake and vegetarian options. And now it's giving something interesting, finally. Actually already, only after 2 tasks, he's already giving us something that is interesting because we executed this other times and was a little more of research before arriving to this. So to create a meal plan for the given objective, we need to consider the individual's current weight, lifestyle, and dietary preferences. So variables are the age, the gender, the current weight, the location, the working hours, and blah, blah, blah. Then it goes to Monday and gives me breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and evening. So 5 times I'll have to eat. Overnight oats with almond milk in the morning, top it with the mixed berries and a sprinkle of chia seeds. And then it continues, up to the evening where I have even an evening snack. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 meals. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Oh, and then on Thursday it is breaking up. Breakfast, veggie omelette made, and then and this is probably because of the maximum amount of
Tokens?
It is possible.
Cars that can be used.
No, this is what happens on ChatGPT.
Yeah,
normally.
exactly.
At some point it stops because it ran out of tokens available for you for your answer. It's
Okay.
weird that it is happening here. Maybe continues later. No.
Then the next one is the loss progress monitoring
This is
and
interesting. How
adjustment.
they're going to execute on the monitoring of the weight loss.
Activity factor, then BMR calculation, a meal plan. No, this one is totally useless.
I was about to say this, but it's nonsense.
Task is totally useless.
I was waiting for this task as soon as you put it there because I thought it was going to give you a strategy for tracking.
Yeah, well, then what happens is that it executes multiple times the same task and gives a task execution concluded. And then it stops because the maximum allowed on this plan is 5 iterations. Of course, if you use AutoGPT, you don't have to pay for other plans. But of course, you pay in all the cases for the API, the consumption, so basically the API key. Okay, I would say that this experiment probably is better to run it with the ChatGPT because Agent GPT was not that accurate, not that didn't bring any value, no? What do you think?
I agree personally. This is a ChatGPT task because you can keep asking yourself based on the answer that you get. You can be very detailed and then you can ask him to add up.
Yeah.
Of course, you need to know what you're asking,
Yeah.
but this is true for everything. This is more, Agent GPT is more for when you actually need something concrete back, some pieces of
Mhm.
information, tangible pieces of information, possibly even from the web. So you're
That's because it's
searching.
connected. Yeah. I would make another experiment. I will try to run another, another one together.
Yes,
Then
maybe
eventually, let's make this a little more interesting into giving it something into our world. I don't know, IT.
you want to know what hashtags are working the best on LinkedIn at the moment for a specific post or Twitter or anywhere.
Yes.
So you can say, I'm posting on Twitter, LinkedIn,
Let's call
about
it LinkedIn agent.
about this topic.
Okay. So
What are the best trending topics
Okay.
of the last week? Sometime.
Okay, so we are okay. Let's say that this is a software house, and we want to publish to post on LinkedIn about digital transformation.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
I would start differently. I would start with reach as many people as possible on LinkedIn.
Okay, I'm giving a bit of context, and then let's try. I mean, I can close it here, and then I can say I want the goal is to reach as many contacts outside of my connections. Let's say net.
So I'm curious because when you try to access ChatGPT with the web plugin to some LinkedIn content, it doesn't access LinkedIn content because it's not in the robots.txt. So let's see if Agent GPT find a way to access LinkedIn content.
Probably not,
for
yeah.
that, or if he use other sources such as marketing agencies to find the hashtags.
What we'll probably do is scrape, as a crawler on Google, and then find all those articles that are talking about most trendy.
That's why Frank's idea to talk about, specifically what happened last week.
Yeah.
So being time wounded
Mhm.
is going to screw.
That's the best case scenario, is that it scrapes and finds something. The worst case scenario is this, that it makes them up. And it
So-
can be, but we can check from the task.
Find me the best
hashtags.
tags for this purpose, because we already explained it. The best hashtags nowadays or in 2023
Best hashtags for June 2023.
for June 2023 for this purpose, and list top 10
Yes.
top 10 that could be used on my post, on my LinkedIn post. This is we want to post on LinkedIn about so the post. Okay,
Maybe
we
you
can say the post on LinkedIn will be about the digital transformation. But let's see what happens when we give it software.
maybe you can read it one more time out loud. The full.
The goal is to reach as many contacts outside of my connections and engage them as much as possible. This is a software house, and we want to post on LinkedIn about digital transformation. Find me the best hashtags for June 2023 for this purpose, and list the top 10 that could be used on my LinkedIn post. Let's see. So Agent GPT is thinking. The first task is about research popular hashtags related to digital transformation on LinkedIn. The second one is analyze the engagement and popularity of each hashtag. The third one is select the top 10 hashtags with the highest engagement and popularity. And the fourth one is provide a list of the top 10 hashtags for June 2023 for your LinkedIn post. It starts executing. Research popular hashtags related to digital transformation on LinkedIn, and it gives immediately a list with a percentage. So according to their data, the top 10 hashtags, and it's also saying that the website is best hashtags. So the top 10 for digital transformation are digital transformation, 44%, of course. Technology, 9%, innovation, 7%, business, 6%, digital, 6%. Then we have artificial intelligence, cloud, data, strategy, and automation. Then it searches for another source and comes with another list. And then after finishing this task, it doesn't add any new task into the list, but starts executing the analyze the engagement and popularity of each hashtag. And goes into to find the best hashtags. We need to analyze the engagement and popularity of different hashtags. Here is a step-by-step process to accomplish this task. Start by brainstorming and collecting a list of potential hashtags related to digital transformation. This can include generic terms like digital transformation, as well as more specific terms like tech advancement, business innovation, future of work. Use a social media analytics tool or platforms like Sprout Social, Hotsuite, or even LinkedIn own analytics to analyze the engagement and popularity of each hashtag. Then it gives other steps like filtering out, considering the relevance of each hashtag according to the target audience, explore trending topics and industry-related events.
See, this is the interesting bit, because this is what you would get from ChatGPT. But now I'm pretty sure it will add the tasks based on this, and it will act upon them itself.
Yeah, now it's searching the top 10 hashtags with the highest engagement and popularity, and is saying that the top 10 most popular are digital transformation, related to digital transformation in 2023 are Grit and Green Book, technology, digital marketing, digital business innovation, global leadership, hope to make this world a better place.
0.04%.
And then adds a task, create a function to filter out the top 10 hashtags based on engagement and popularity. So it will create a filter later. Then creates the list of the top 10 hashtags for June 2023 on LinkedIn posts. And its management, its innovation management, digital marketing, technology, creativity, futurism, startups, marketing. And adds a new task. Create a function to analyze the engagement and popularity of hashtags on social media platforms. Then it starts the last two tasks of the loop, because the loop, unfortunately, here lasts only 5 iterations. And the last one is create a function to filter out the top 10 hashtags based on engagement and popularity for June 2023. And in this case is giving a different percentage. So for example, Grit and the Green Book now is assigned to a weight of 0.08. So it's not good. While instead the top one is digital marketing 14.47. Then of course it would be nice to understand what is the percentage that should be related to this, right?
You know, it's not because this is a percentage of posts that contain this hashtag. It doesn't mean that. So the competition, for example, for technology or innovation is monstrous because so many people use these hashtags that basically the chance that someone who is interested in this hashtag and see your post is very low. So it's better indeed to do the opposite and to target hashtag with a smaller popularity because it's far more niche. So, and
yes,
you are more likely to be seen.
Yes, probably yes. Like hope to make this world a better place.
Yeah, maybe probably there was a campaign, a brand campaign on that one. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, the purpose of this exercise is to show how AutoGPT, Agent GPT is operating.
So I couldn't find the source and the best hashtag stuff. I did a search in parallel.
It gives the link and then you can click on it besthashtags.com, as you can see.
Okay.
So it's giving this, there is a top 10 digital transformation.
And what you add?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. It's not LinkedIn. No, then it gives also LinkedIn, I guess.
Medium difficulty hashtag.
Popular hashtags, medium difficulty,
Easy.
Well,
with the easy one too. Okay, no, but I mean, what it demonstrates is basically the way it works. And even if you cannot choose the output directly, it has already done a lot of the jobs that before you was doing manually.
Yes.
You don't have to research, work with an agencies that track all these hashtags or buy some data sets extra. You already kind of have a base to do it. But it doesn't do the job. They say after, should you use these hashtags or are there better hashtags for your content or for your audience?
Yeah, I've been using AutoGPT that is a little more powerful for searching websites that could be collector of some information that I needed. And then I used another agent, I deployed another agent that could verify the website and let me know if it is really legit, and then it was interesting because it was searching all the sources like a Facebook page and understand how many likes, then comments on other websites like Trustpilot, feedbacks, then going into testimonials and matching them with the real profiles to understand if that was a real profile or a fake profile, and then some other things. And that actually was interesting because this way you could speed up the research that you are conducting in order to understand if something is good or not, and gives you good brainstorming tool for ideas, that gives you some new sources and that you can operate on. I mean, of course, in the future will become better and better, so it's worth to keep an eye on it and see what happens. Okay.
And look at the top list: digital transformation, artificial intelligence, automation, data. That's all you need.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say that for today it's all. I want to thank you guys for spending a lot of time with me today and discussing all these nice topics. I also want to thank our audience that is here and listening to us and definitely sending us a lot of comments and interacting with us after every episode is recorded. And it is a pleasure to stay with you. It was a fantastic conversation. I hope that we can do this again eventually in some of the next episodes. That will be great. And I don't know, do you want to add anything, Cyril, Frank?
It was great to be live with you in your office to record this episode. So different setup as usual. So just the three of us. But it was great in terms of interactions. The topic also, I think you're right. We needed a second episode to talk about this topic. And I'm sure that with so much innovation around the agent GPT, auto GPT, tree of thoughts, chain of thoughts, we will come back in this season to AI.
Definitely.
Yeah, the three of us, as Mike said, hopefully we're gonna see you here again.
Yeah. As you can see, the table is meant for three, so
Exactly. It's perfectly fit. It's perfect.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining, and let's catch again into the next episode. Thank you.